Fumi was 16, but pain had aged her far beyond that. Her days began before sunrise, carrying a splintered basket of fruit to the far end of the township, and ended late in the night, walking home through alleys she wouldn't wish on an enemy. Her father's house no longer felt like home, not since her mother died, and her father remarried Mama Sewa, a woman with gold earrings and a heart made of iron. And after her father's sudden death, the house became a prison. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Fumi's parents had worked hard. Her mother sold beautiful fabrics and laces in the market. Her father ran a big transport business. Together, they had saved up for Fumi's future, even opening a school savings account in her name. But the day her father died, Mama Sewa closed the account and transferred the money, saying, "He didn't leave anything for you. Everything now belongs to Kunle." Kunle, her lazy stepbrother, ate meat every night and went to private school, funded with the same money Fumi's mother had helped save. Fumi got bruised mangoes, tattered clothes, and orders shouted from the kitchen. She begged to go to school, even if it was a public evening class. But Mama Sewa laughed. "What do you need school for? So you can write letters no one will read?" When Fumi insisted, Kunle mocked her. One day, he poured kerosene on her notebooks and kicked over her small reading stool. "Go and study the fruit stand," he sneered. Fumi cried until her throat went dry, not because of the books, but because she knew the money existed. Her father had left it, but it was never meant for her anymore. Still, she remembered her mother's voice. Every night, those words came back. Be clean. Work hard. Never lie. Never beg. Even if they try to break you, don't let them change you. Fumi carried those words like armor. She wouldn't steal. She wouldn't lose herself, even if everything else was already gone. One night, Fumi walked along the narrow sidewalk with her fruit basket resting on her hip, shifting it from side to side every few minutes to ease the weight. Her arms burned from carrying it all day. Most of the fruit was already soft, some even bruised, but Mama Sewa insisted she sell every single piece, no matter how late, no matter how dark. Fumi's throat was dry and her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since morning, and it was almost 9 p.m. The streets she walked were no place for a girl her age. Drunk men loitered near the beer joints, whistling or muttering things she pretended not to hear. Her heart raced each time she passed a group. She knew what could happen. Girls had gone missing from this area before, but if she went home with fruit in the basket, she would face something worse than fear. Mama Sewa's belt, or being locked out in the cold. That had happened twice before. She had slept behind the gate with a torn wrapper and a mosquito coil she lit with a match she begged from a roadside vendor. As she crossed the pothole near the gutter, her foot caught on a loose stone. In one sudden motion, she stumbled, and the basket slipped from her hands. Fruits flew in every direction, rolling into the gutter and into the dirt. She dropped to her knees, panicking, scraping up what she could with trembling hands. "No, no, no," she muttered, tears already burning behind her eyes. She had failed. There was no way she could return home like this. Then a voice cut through the silence, calm, strong, kind. "You look like you could use a hand." Fumi looked up, startled. A woman stood a few feet away, wearing a neat wrapper and headscarf, a basket by her feet. Her face was lined, her eyes tired but warm. She didn't look rich, but she didn't look dangerous either. "I'm Mama Chika," the woman said gently. "Come, let's pick them up together." Fumi didn't move at first. She was still on her knees, fingers gripping a crushed mango, her breath sharp and shaky. She'd never had anyone offer help like that. Not since her mother. Everyone else either looked away or looked down on her. But the woman, Mama Chica, was already kneeling beside her. She picked up a fruit, wiped it on a wrapper, and gently placed it back into the tilted basket. No questions, no judgment, just quiet movement, as if they had done this together before. Fumi swallowed hard and lowered her head. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice cracked. She hadn't said those words out loud in a long time. Mama Chica smiled softly and nodded like she understood more than she let on. When all the fruit had been picked up, some now too bruised to sell, Mama Chica stood and said, "Sit down for a moment. You're shaking." She pointed to the small wooden bench near her fruit table. Fumi looked down the road, unsure. If she didn't return soon, Mama Sewa would scream. Kunle might lock her out for fun again, but her legs couldn't carry her yet. She sat. The bench was old, but it held her weight. Mama Chica opened a small cooler behind her table and handed Fumi a sachet of water. Fumi stared at it for a second before accepting. Her throat ached as she drank. "I've seen you before," Mama Chica said gently. "You sell late, always alone. You're too young for this." Fumi nodded, blinking back tears, but her lips stayed shut. She had learned that talking could be dangerous, that stories could be twisted and used against you. Still, something about the way Mama Chica spoke made her chest feel a little less heavy, like maybe not everyone in the world wanted to break her. The night air settled around them like a blanket. The market had mostly emptied, but Mama Chica's table still stood open, her small lantern casting a soft yellow light over them. Fumi sat quietly, her hands clenched in her lap, afraid to get too comfortable. She was still thinking about how many fruits were ruined, how Mama Sewa would shout, and what Kunle would do if she came back with less money. Mama Chica just reached behind her table, tore a small piece of boiled corn in half, and handed one part to Fumi. Fumi hesitated, then took it. It was warm, slightly burnt, and it tasted like something her mother used to make. A flood of memories rushed in, and she blinked hard to push them back. After a long silence, Mama Chica finally asked the question no one had ever asked her. "Do you want to keep living like this?" Fumi looked up, not in confusion, but in surprise. Most people told her what she had to do. Sell fruit, obey, carry. Shut up. No one had asked what she wanted. The word sat heavy on her chest. She shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered, "but I don't have a choice." Mama Chica leaned back. "I had a daughter once, same age as you. She died 5 years ago. Illness." Her voice trembled for a moment, then steadied. "She was smart, strong. I see her in you." Fumi didn't respond, but for the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel the warmth of a moment, not from the corn or the lantern, from being seen, from someone asking what no one else ever had. As Mama Chica stood to begin packing her stall, she looked at Fumi and said simply, "Come tomorrow. After you're selling, just come. I'll show you something different." And with that, she gave Fumi something she hadn't had in a very long time, a reason to come back. Fumi thanked her again and began the slow walk home. She carried the half-filled basket tighter than usual, knowing it wasn't enough. Some of the fruits were damaged, some too dirty to sell. The guilt burned inside her chest even before the house came into view. She pushed the gate open quietly, hoping Kunle had fallen asleep watching TV. And maybe, just maybe, Mama Sewa was already in bed. But the living room light was on. "Where have you been?" Mama Sewa snapped before Fumi even reached the door. Fumi stood still, her feet aching. I fell, she whispered. The basket! Before she could finish, Mama Sewa jumped up. So you're now spoiling my goods? Do you think fruit grows on trees in this house? She snatched the basket and tipped it over. Oranges rolled across the floor. Some were bruised. The slap came before she saw it. Sharp. Fast. Her ears rang. Fumi didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because she had learned tears fed their cruelty. She just stared at the floor. That was when a knock came at the gate. Everyone froze. Kunle frowned. Who's that by this time? Fumi opened the gate cautiously. There stood Mama Chika, holding a small black nylon bag and a tired smile. Sorry to disturb. Your daughter helped me pack my stall tonight. I came to give her some leftovers to thank her. She handed the bag to Fumi. It held 2 clean mangoes and 3 bananas. Good girl, she said, loud enough for the house to hear. Then she nodded at Mama Sewa. Your daughter's very respectful. You should be proud. And just like that, Mama Chika turned and walked away, leaving Fumi holding a little bag of dignity. Mama Sewa said nothing. She looked at Fumi with narrowed eyes, then hissed and stormed into her room. That night, Fumi sat on the cold floor of her room and ate one of the mangoes in silence. She didn't smile, but her chest felt steady. For the first time, someone had seen her, and someone had stood for her. The next day, Fumi left the house early to sell her fruits and came back home early. She made sure to finish her sales earlier than usual, even if it meant avoiding certain streets. She returned with an almost empty basket and a heart full of questions. Mama Sewa didn't notice. Kunle was too busy playing music on his phone and counting the few naira notes she had brought in. Fumi slipped out quietly after pretending to go fetch water. When she reached Mama Chika's table, the older woman was already unpacking her fruit with sharp speed and care. Her stall was small, just a table and 2 crates, but everything was neat. The mangoes were stacked by size, the oranges washed and glowing under a bright yellow lamp. Fumi watched in silence. You came, Mama Chika said without turning. Good. First lesson, no one trusts a seller with dirty hands or messy fruits. She handed Fumi a cloth and a shallow bowl of water. Fumi began wiping down the oranges one by one, carefully. Her fingers moved slowly at first, then faster as her nerves eased. Mama Chika continued working beside her, speaking calmly but firmly. She explained how different customers prefer different things. Some liked bargaining, others didn't. She taught Fumi to look for small signs, how to watch eyes and body language, how to arrange fruit to catch light. See this? She pointed to a slightly bruised pawpaw. Never put this on top. It goes under. Always lead with your best. Fumi listened like her life depended on it. In many ways, it did. By the end of the day, Mama Chika gave her a bag of unsold bananas. Take them home. Eat some. Sell the rest tomorrow. But don't tell anyone yet. Let this be between us. Fumi nodded, clutching the bag to her chest. As she walked home, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't pride or joy. It was smaller, quieter, hope. And though the bag wasn't heavy, her spirit felt just a little lighter. It didn't take long for Mama Sewa to notice the change. Fumi was leaving earlier, coming back later, and somehow she was returning with more money than before. More than ever, in fact. The bruised fruit wasn't spoiling in the basket anymore. She sold them quicker, and she had learned to speak confidently to buyers. Even the women at the bus stop who used to ignore her were now calling her Fruit Girl with the clean mango. Mama Sewa narrowed her eyes at the folded notes in Fumi's hand one night. "Where is this coming from?" she asked, not with curiosity, but with warning. Fumi simply answered, "I'm just selling better." Her voice was steady. Her eyes didn't blink, but her heart beat fast. She could feel Kunle stare from the corner of the room. Kunle spoke up later that night, when Fumi was washing her blouse at the back of the house. "You're getting clever, Abi," he sneered. "Maybe you found a man in the market giving you free money?" Fumi didn't answer. She knew better. Any word could become a weapon in that house. So she focused on scrubbing the cloth harder, even though the soap stung her fingers. That night, Mama Sewa followed her into the room with a belt in hand. "You better not be hiding anything from me," she hissed. "I feed you. I gave you this roof. If I find out you're stealing..." She didn't finish the sentence, but Fumi knew what she meant. She had felt that belt more times than she could count. But that night, she said nothing. Not because she was afraid, but because she was learning. Mama Chika's voice echoed in her mind. "Keep quiet when they try to provoke you. Noise is their power. Silence is yours." So Fumi sat still, staring at the ceiling, holding onto her mother's old scarf wrapped beneath her pillow. She didn't cry. She didn't curse. She just whispered to herself, "They can't stop me." The next week, Mama Chika handed Fumi a folded flyer. It was crumpled, with faint ink and frayed corners. But the words on it hit Fumi like thunder in her chest. Adult education, free evening classes, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Fumi stared at it for a long time. "It's free?" she asked softly. Mama Chika nodded. "It's run by the church, just down the road from the old post office. You can go after selling. It won't clash with your work." She paused, then added, "Your mother would want you to learn. You're smart, Fumi. I can see it." That night, Fumi sat with the flyer hidden inside her wrapper. She stared at the door to the main house, listening to the noise from the television. Kunle's voice yelling at a game. The fear inside her was loud. If Mama Sewa found out, if Kunle found out, she could lose everything. But her mother's voice returned in her memory again, like wind through a window. "If you believe you deserve better, act like it." The next evening, Fumi told Mama Sewa she was staying longer at the market to help a customer deliver bulk fruit. It was a lie, and she hated lying. But she had decided this was her fight now. If she didn't make a way for herself, no one else would. She arrived at the church classroom, sweaty, nervous, and underdressed. But when she stepped in, her eyes widened. Rows of wooden desks, a blackboard, and other people like her. Adults, teenagers, market workers, maids. Some had books open already. Some were just as scared as she was. The teacher smiled at her. "You're new. What's your name?" She stood straighter, heart racing. "Fumi," she said. "Welcome," the teacher replied. "Pick any desk." She chose the seat in the second row. It was small, old, and rough, but it was hers. That night, she walked home holding her notebook like it was treasure. She was no longer just surviving. She was learning, and no one could take that away from her. Fumi didn't mean for them to notice. She tried to hide it. She still walked like she used to, still kept her voice low, still cleaned the house before sunrise, and carried the fruit basket without complaint. But something inside her had changed, and it began to show. She began coming home later, always saying she had stayed at the market to help Mama Chika pack or to wait for bulk buyers. It wasn't a lie every time, but it wasn't the full truth either. She now attended evening school 4 days a week, learning math, reading, and writing with quiet hunger. She stopped making small mistakes with money. She started writing prices neater on cardboard signs. She spoke clearly to customers. Mama Sewa didn't miss it. Neither did Kunle. She's getting proud, Mama Sewa said one evening, slamming a pot onto the stove. Walking around like a queen because she sells a few fruits. Kunle leaned back in his chair. Something's different about her. I know that girl. She's hiding something. That evening, Kunle followed her. He waited behind the old store across from the church building. And when he saw her slip inside the adult classroom, with a book in hand and her shoulders high, his mouth fell open. He ran home to tell Mama Sewa. Fumi knew something was wrong the moment she stepped through the gate later that night. The air was tight. Mama Sewa stood by the doorway with Kunle behind her, smirking. "You've been going to school?" Mama Sewa asked. Her voice was quiet, too quiet. Fumi said nothing. She stood still. "So now you're lying too? My own roof, and you sneak out to waste time on books?" Fumi swallowed. "I go after selling. I still bring all your money." Mama Sewa slapped the wall. "All my money? How did you pay for the school fees? You earn nothing without my basket, without this house. You think reading a few books makes you more than us?" Fumi didn't respond. Her hands shook, but her eyes didn't. And in that silence, something happened. They saw they no longer scared her. She wasn't disrespectful, she wasn't shouting, but she wasn't trembling either. That scared them more than anything. She turned and walked past them, slowly, into her room. Behind her door, she cried. Not because of their anger, but because it was the first time she didn't apologize. The following week, Fumi arrived at the market early, not to sell for Mama Sewa, but to help Mama Chika. They had worked out a quiet rhythm. Fumi would finish her own selling, drop the earnings at home, then sneak back out to learn at the store and attend class afterward. It was risky, but it was freedom, and she guarded it like gold. One day, while wiping down oranges, Mama Chika asked, "What would you do if this table was yours?" Fumi blinked. "Mine?" "Yes, if you didn't have to give every naira to that house, if you could sell and keep something for yourself. What would you do?" Fumi thought for a moment. "I'd save. I'd buy a chair, a better basket. I'd buy school books, and I'd maybe help someone else one day, like you helped me." Mama Chika smiled. "Then it's time." She walked to the back of her stall and returned with a wooden fruit crate. Small, worn, but freshly cleaned. On the side, painted in neat black letters, was one word, Fumi. "I've been watching," Mama Chika said. "You work hard. You're honest. You didn't give up. This is your start. I'll give you the first fruits. You sell. Keep half. Use the rest to restock. One condition, don't stop going to class." Fumi stood frozen, her eyes filled with tears, but it was tears of joy. She just pressed both palms together in front of her chest and whispered, "Thank you." That night, she tucked the crate beside her mattress under a wrapper so Mama Sewa wouldn't see it. She held her notebook in one hand and Mama Chika's crate in the other. She had nothing to her name yesterday, but now she had her name on something. She was building, quietly, brick by brick, basket by basket. Fumi's fruit stall started to draw attention. At first, just passers-by from the bus stop who noticed her clean layout and sweet bananas. Then, regular buyers came back, asking for her by name, the polite one, they'd say. Some days, she'd sell out before noon and have to restock from Mama Chika's extra supply. She always repaid her. Every coin, every fruit. No one told her to. It was just how she was raised. Her mother always said, "Let your name open doors before your mouth does." One afternoon, a loud man with flashy sunglasses and gold chains stopped by her stall. "You sell fast," he said, eyeing her fruits. Good prices too. I run a small hotel. Want a big buyer? Fumi's eyes lit up. Yes, sir. Good, he grinned. But I don't pay for full weight. I don't want receipts or clean records. I just want cheap fruit fast. You cut corners, you get paid. Her heart skipped. She could say yes. One deal could pay for her books, her clothes, even allow her to buy her own second table. But something in her chest pulled tight, like a thread tugging her back. She looked at him and calmly said, I'm sorry. I only sell what's right. No cheating. The man frowned. So you're one of those goody two-shoes? Fumi nodded. Yes, sir. He laughed and walked away. A nearby seller whispered, You just lost a big customer. Fumi smiled softly. Maybe, but I didn't lose myself. That evening, she sat with Mama Chica under the tree. She told her what happened. Mama Chica only said, You're your mother's daughter. And Fumi knew then real success wasn't just about fruit. It was about the hands that held it. It happened slowly at first. One woman asked to use a corner of Fumi's table to display her pineapples. Fumi agreed. Word spread. The girl with the wooden crate named Fumi didn't just sell fruit. She respected people. She was fair, and she didn't forget what it meant to start from nothing. Soon, Fumi was no longer working alone. She had 2 crates, then 3. With Mama Chica's guidance, she expanded, not just in size, but in purpose. She taught the other girls what she had learned, how to stack fruits, how to speak with buyers, how to count change properly. She never shouted, never rushed, and never kept more than her share. One Saturday, a woman from a food supply company came to her stall. We're looking for clean, reliable vendors to supply fresh fruit for offices and hotels, she said. We heard about you. Fumi didn't know what to say at first. She wiped her palms on her wrapper and nodded. The woman left a card and told her to call. Mama Chica, who had watched from the corner of her eye, walked over and patted her back. International starts here, she whispered. By the end of that year, Fumi's business had a name, Fumi Fresh. She registered it with the help of a church worker who filled the forms. She got delivery bags, hired 2 boys with carts, and started exporting small crates to nearby towns. But she never left her table. She still cleaned her fruits herself every morning. She still sat on her same old stool. She still smiled at every customer, even the rude ones. Because to Fumi, the business wasn't about rising above people. It was about lifting others with her. And just like Mama Chica once did for her, she made room at her stand for anyone who needed a chance. Then one day, Fumi stood in front of a classroom, not as a student, but as a guest speaker. It was the same adult education center where she had once sat quietly in the second row, clutching a notebook like it was treasure. Now she wore a soft green blouse, her hair neatly tied back, and her voice calm, clear, and strong. Some of you are tired, she told the class. Some of you think you're too old, too behind, too stuck. I thought those things too. I saw fruit in the dark when I should have been in school, but books still found me, and I found my way. The students applauded with respect because they knew her story wasn't made up. It was theirs too. After her speech, Fumi sat in the empty classroom for a while, thinking. She remembered the long nights, the bruised fruits, the sting of belts, the way Kunle laughed at her English books, and how Mama Sewa tore up her first application letter. But still, she had made it. She hadn't just finished the adult education program. She had sat for her WAEC, passed it with high marks, and gotten accepted into a polytechnic, studying agricultural business and trade. She ran her fruit business during the day and attended classes in the evening. She graduated top 3 in her department. At 21, she moved out of her father's house. She didn't argue. She didn't make a scene. One morning, she packed her things, the few clothes she owned, her registration papers, and Mama Chica's original wooden crate, and walked away. Mama Sewa didn't stop her. Kunle didn't say a word. She rented a single room close to the market using money she had saved from honest work. Small mattress at first, her books and peace. Now, years later, she had expanded Fumi Fresh into a fruit export brand, supplying to local hotels and shipping fresh, organic fruit crates to Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. She had employees, a small office, and her very own apartment, 2 rooms, a fridge, and a bookshelf she built. She still visited Mama Chica every weekend. The older woman didn't sell much anymore, but her chair by the corner remained. They would sit, share oranges, and talk about customers, life, and the ones still coming up. Fumi always said, "I'm here because you stopped to help me when I was on the ground." And Mama Chica always replied, "No, my daughter, you're here because you stood back up." That evening, a journalist came by to interview her. "So, Miss Fumi," she asked, pen ready, "what does this business mean to you?" Fumi smiled and looked at the rows of baskets, then at the young girls learning to weigh fruit honestly, at the notepad in her purse from her university distance learning course in business management, at the papers on her desk, one of them a contract from a distributor in London. She said simply, "It started with a fall. A basket of spilled fruit, but I picked them up, and I never stopped." Moral of the story: sometimes life hands you an empty basket, but with clean hands, a steady spirit, and the right people, you can fill it, not just with fruit, but with education, dignity, freedom, and a future. If Fumi's journey touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share this story. There are still many young women with empty baskets, waiting for someone to believe in them, even if it starts with just one fruit